So today, 29th January 2025, there are news coming out from the Ukrainian war regarding the status of Ukraine itself, of the government of Ukraine. The chief of the intelligence services of Ukraine, which is called Kirill Budanov, he has provided an interview to a Western newspaper in which he does confirm that if Ukraine continues the way it is, in 6 months the country, there will be no country basically. They will lose the war completely. Okay, he's saying that the Russians will pretty much run over Ukraine. And obviously, this statement came after the election or after Trump became a president. Trump and his administration, and now pretty much, what's his name? I think it's Marco Rubio. They did reduce the amount of aid they're sending to Ukraine. Okay, they got out a decree in which they stopped U.S. aid for many countries, except for Egypt and Israel. However, it seems like an exception have been provided to Ukraine, although the amount of aid that they're going to be providing to Ukraine is not going to be sufficient. So, as I say before, this is a kind of proxy war, and then the Western countries are supporting Ukraine, I would say 60%. Okay, the Europeans are supporting Ukraine because they are allies of the Americans, and the Americans under the government of Mr. Joe Biden, they were completely involved in the conflict in Ukraine since 2014 under Obama. You have Victoria Nuland that was president in Ukraine during the revolution, and then now in the past 2 years, 2.5 years. So the Trump government has said that it's enough. The war in Ukraine needs to end, and he's going to reach an agreement, a peace agreement with the Russians. He is trying to get Putin to meet with him, to talk to him in a telephone conversation in order to reach a peace agreement. Trump's statements are a bit strange. They make no sense sometimes, because sometimes he offers the Russians a peace agreement by asking them to surrender completely. And then sometimes he says that, oh, okay, actually the Russians will be able to keep the territories that they have taken from Ukraine, because Ukraine won't be able to recover these territories. And we should reach an agreement under these new borderlines that they have been created due to the war. Okay, so we know that the Ukrainian government is currently surviving thanks to Western aid from Europe, from America, and also for other countries as well. And that if this aid is cut, the Ukrainian government will not survive. And actually mean that they won't be able to pay the pensions for the Ukrainian elderly people. They won't be able to provide many benefits to the Ukrainian population, and they won't even be able to pay the salaries of the people that are in government. So this is a really serious situation. And what the chief of intelligence has said is something concerning. He is really close to the government. He knows the information that many people don't know. So for him to come in public and say this, it means that the thing is really bad. What's happening in the Ukrainian side is really bad. So the age of mobilization has been reduced to 18. That means that teenagers are going to be forced to go to the war. They will be recruited in the way the Ukrainians recruit people today. I don't know if you've seen the videos, okay? I'm not going to go into details on that. And then they will be sent to the front. So this individual, Kirill Budanov, has been saying for years now that Russia is running out of missiles, that the Russian army is sending people that they don't supposed to be fighting. He's been saying that the Russian army is going to lose the war. They're about to lose the war. This guy has been involved in the conflict since 2014. In fact, he was involved in the first civil war in Ukraine between the West and the East. and he was part of the Ukrainian army that were bombarding the eastern part of the country and subjugating them to submission, basically. Although they were not successful, and the Russians got involved and they managed to get the first Minsk agreement and then the second Minsk agreement, this individual made his way to the Ukrainian intelligence and he became the chief of that department. So now this is concerning. There are many people saying that he doesn't know what he's saying and that what he's saying is not true. But actually, Ukraine, including Zelensky, now they're talking about peace talks. They're talking about reaching agreements with the Russians under their terms, but at least they're talking about it because a law was passed in Ukraine that prohibits anyone, even the president of Ukraine, the current one, which is Mr. Zelensky, who is in power without, his term has ended and he didn't conduct any democratic elections. So he's in power, his time in power has expired, basically, if you think about it. But anyways, he's considered the president of Ukraine by many countries, and even him, under this law, he's not allowed to reach a peace agreement with Russia until Putin is out of power. It is really weird, the fact that they signed this, as it's really weird that the British have signed 100 years military agreement with Ukraine. 100 years. That, what kind of a joke is that? It makes no sense whatsoever. And let's see if the British will be sending troops to Ukraine. I don't know, in case of what? I don't really understand what that military agreement is meant to do, apart from providing weapons or any kind of military support. But when it comes to intervention, I don't think the British will intervene in that war against the Russians. But let's see what happens. Keep an eye on this, because the situation in Ukraine, as I did say 2 years ago, as I say a year ago, and as I've been saying today, is getting worse for the Ukrainians. And now you have the Russians, an army who wasn't at the level that it is today. These guys have adapted to modern warfare. Not only that, they know and they study the science of new modern warfare, where drones are used, where the attacker loses less troops than the ones that are defending, with the wise use of drones, of reconnaissance units, of artillery, and of missiles. And drones that, there are drones that throw grenades, and there are other drones that fly long distances and they cause massive explosions that destroy entire objectives. So the Russians run away to fight against the Ukrainians. This is modern warfare. And the Ukrainians have been complaining a lot about the training they've been receiving from Western countries. In fact, there was a whole unit that basically gave up. They gave up. They surrendered to the Russians. Some of them just left their positions. They were trained in France, basically. And they did say that the training they received in France, it was more related to the Second World War than to the modern war they're fighting today against an advanced military nuclear power like Russia is. So, as I said, the Russians now, I don't know what army can fight against them at this point. They have the knowledge, they have the experience, and they have the tools necessary to fight a modern war. And many European countries that are barking from the distance and saying that they're willing to get involved in a war against Russia if it expands towards the west, further west from Ukraine. I don't know if they're aware of the beast that they've created, because Russia now is at a military level that no country can match it. No country can match it. Anyways, I hope this is helpful and informative. Please share this video, and as always, I'll continue informing you.